Welcome to Markets Now. I'm Alison, Kosik, and we are streaming live from the floor of the New York Stock Exchange. It is halftime of the trading week. Let's get this thing started. House Democrats launch a formal impeachment inquiry as the Trump-Ukraine transcript is released. The I word rattled investors yesterday, but stocks are higher today. Could an impeachment battle undermine investment confidence and bring a stock market distraction? Who better to ask than Anthony Scaramucci? The former White House communications director has publicly broken with President Trump. The Moots joining me on the floor live to talk impeachment. We'll talk about the trade war and the risks to this bull market. And a stunning fall from grace. WeWork's Adam Neumann is out as CEO. Can the company recover under new leadership? And will it ever go public? Before we get to all that, let's check the action on the floor here. The Dow up 155 points. Clearly, investors are not rattled by all this impeachment talk. Stocks were down modestly, but then at the UN, President Trump did say that a deal with China can happen sooner than expected. But I'm wondering if that was just a distraction. It's something I'm going to ask Anthony Scaramucci. He joins me now live. Keep in mind, he no longer supports President Trump. He is currently with Skybridge Capital. He's the founder and co-managing partner at Skybridge Capital. Thanks so much for joining us.
How are you? Good to see you.
So good to see you. So we're going to get to China in just a second because we want to talk about the big story, this impeachment inquiry. So Democrats have launched this inquiry. The White House releasing this transcript, this rough transcript, I should say, of Trump's call with the Ukrainian president. You say on Twitter that this transcript is more damning than you expected. What do you exactly mean?
Well, it's prima facie lawlessness, and so you just have to look at the comprehensive fact set. The military aid was withheld. A week later, the phone call is made. They're in conversation. This is how the president operates. It's a direct of a hit as you can get from the president of the United States.
But the GOP lawmakers are saying, look, there's
of course they are. Of course they are. So now you're in a full-blown constitutional crisis, and you're in a full-blown battle for the American democracy. And so what I also said on Twitter, and I'll say right now, is that James Madison didn't anticipate that there would be a group of partisan hacks that wouldn't stand up to somebody that was being this criminal or this lawless as the chief executive of the United States. So we have a very interesting fact set. You have a group of people who are going to move the goalposts and accept the gaslighting of President Trump in order to preserve their own power. And so this is sort of ridiculous now. So, but let me tell you what will happen. It's my prediction. It's chipping away. Last night's vote, the 100% of the Senate voting in favor of seeing the whistleblowers report was a very, very good sign. The whistleblowers report will be even worse than the transcript. I know the president's personality very well. He put the transcript out because he knows it's ridiculous, and it's so ridiculously lawless that just put it out aggressively in that Roy Cohn-style way and act like it's not that big of a deal.
You say you know the president well. What's the president thinking right now, you think?
Oh, he's having like a nervous breakdown. I mean, the guy's having like a grand mal seizure. He was up all night last night. He's trying to pretend that he's cool as a cucumber. He's got his acolytes signaling that he's cool as a cucumber. But his tell was yesterday on the phone with Nancy Pelosi where he said, hey, can we work this out somehow? Okay, so this is just a lack of morality on the president's part, a lack of actually probably even understanding where the laws are. I mean, if I was his country lawyer, like Rudy Giuliani, a country lawyer, I'd be saying, okay, the guy doesn't know what criminal activity is. You know, you'd have to plead that as opposed to anything else.
Okay, but
even that rank incompetence means he's got to go. So, and I think the market's up because of that. I think people are now recognizing that the gig is up, and this is now just a matter of time. Is it a month? Is it 2 months? Is it 3 months? I don't know the exact timing of this thing, but the Republicans know that they're going to do way better without this guy, and they'll rally together and they'll ask him to leave.
You've sort of already kicked him out of office by the way you're talking, but there is a reality. Look, the House expected
I haven't kicked him out of office. I'm just telling you what I think is going to happen.
If this really does happen, where the House impeaches him, but the reality is we've got a GOP-controlled Senate, you need a 2/3 majority to kick him out of office, to convict him and convict him out of office. Does this wind up just being a show and rattling the nation?
Listen, you have prima facie lawlessness. Okay, the guy committed a criminal act as the President of the United States. Just look at the transcript. He knows it, you know it, I know it, and so now the whistleblower is going to provide more context and more color to the criminality of what happened. And so now you're saying to me that there'll be a group of senators that despite the criminality they'll gaslight the entire situation and try to pretend that it's normal. Okay, they may do that, but I predict that they won't. It's so ridiculously far and away, that of course they're going to, say it in the beginning, but they'll flip towards the end. That's my prediction.
What about the argument Mike Bloomberg is making? He says the 2020 election is a better forum for removing the president. Let the people decide, let the voters decide, instead of having this sort of impeachment show.
So I understand why Mike Bloomberg is saying that, and I understand that anybody that wants to denounce the president would like to see him beat at the ballot box, and I totally get that. And so we could go in that direction, but I'm predicting that the Republicans are not going to allow that. Republicans are looking at the tea leaves. The president has not been able to expand his base in the last 3 years. If anything, he's stuck at a real clear politics number of about 41, 42% in terms of his composite average approval rating. And so when you look at the criminal lawlessness, Mike is probably right, Mayor Bloomberg is probably right in the sense that let's beat him at the ballot box, but I predict the Republicans are not going to let that happen. They're going to try to get a more normal Republican candidate. They'll pull somebody from the 2024 stable of candidates and move them into 2020. But I get what Mike's saying, but my prediction is the Republicans aren't going to want that because they can't win with this guy. And Mike's saying that because he hates the guy, like I do, and he's saying that because he just wants to beat him at the ballot box, because that'll be a complete humiliation of President Trump, as opposed to this sort of this sort of escape valve.
All right, let's turn to the markets a little bit and the impact of impeachment on the market. Do you see an impeachment process undermining confidence in the stock market?
No, I don't think it matters to the market. I think the market would look at the situation with some level of relief. In the beginning, the market was pricing in a Trump rally due to the deregulation and the tax cuts. Tax cuts happened. You had a 40% drop in taxes. That showed up in the corporate earnings. You had a 40% move in the markets. But now the markets really haven't moved in the last 2 years. I mean, they've gone up and down. They're up this year, but in the last 2 years, they've basically been flat.
So
the markets are looking at...
All impeachments aren't the same. Keep in mind, we saw stocks obviously get hit during, after Nixon.
But there's only been 4 impeachments, so,
right. But we've seen the market react differently with each one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Your prediction is no reaction.
My prediction is the market is pricing in, and the reason why it's up, that he's gone. That's my prediction.
Okay, let's turn to the China trade war. Does President Trump get any credit at all for standing up to China and saying, look, this unfair trade practice, it's got to stop? Other presidents haven't done that. Does he deserve any credit?
Listen, I'm an objective guy. I give the president credit for that, but the strategy was completely flawed. He was told by his smartest advisors to move to tariff parity gradually. The approach should have been 2% a quarter for 11 quarters, would have gotten you to tariff parity, and it would have given business leaders around the world, business leaders large and small, the opportunity to adjust their supply chain to the tariff parity. But he didn't do that because he's such a complete narcissist. He did something called Trump tariff roulette. He spun the wheel, shot the marble in the roulette wheel, and we didn't know what was going to happen.
Well,
and that's
isn't
why the
that
investment,
an interesting visual?
But that's why the investment capital numbers are at all-time lows for this point in an economic cycle. Go look at the first and second quarter investment capital numbers. They're nil. They're going to be worse in the third quarter because he's paralyzed all these business leaders due to his narcissistic craziness.
How do you see this ending up very quickly, the China trade war?
Well, I think the Chinese definitely want him to stay in power. I think that they're concerned now that he's going to get ousted by a combination of the Democrats and the Republicans, but the Chinese would definitely want him in power.
Why?
So why? Because he's destroying the hard and soft power of the United States globally. Why? Because he's wrecking the international alliance of the Western democracies. Why? Because he's destroyed the international trading system, and that plays to the advantage of China. And there's no long-term plan for the United States. So leave him in power for 5 more years, all alone in the White House, seeking nobody's counsel with his Twitter bat phone. I mean, that would be an unbelievable great thing for the Chinese.
Let's turn to the 2020 election.
Of course they would want him to stay in power.
2020 election, Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, both talking about a wealth tax. Is that the right way to address income inequality? How should we tax the rich?
Okay, so that's the stuff that will affect the market. And so, that's a bunch of nonsense. Again, I can prove to you that won't work. these socialists think that people like me have my money in a swimming pool and like $100 bills. It just doesn't work that way. My money's in my company, my money's invested in real assets, and my money's helping to create jobs in the society. So if they go with a full-blown wealth tax, two things will happen. Wealth will mobilize outside of the United States, and they'll grind to a halt all the economic innovation and investment. So this is a bunch of nonsense. This is a tried and true socialist playbook. It's never worked in human history. And we have 150 years of current history where it's been an absolute unmitigated disaster. So the market's pricing that neither one of those two people are going to get that nomination or win the presidential election. Because if that comes to pass, then you'll see a real hit to the stock market.
Okay, in the national poll that's out, it shows that Elizabeth Warren is a little bit above Biden for the Democratic nomination.
And Howard Dean was crushing John Kerry in 2003, right around this time.
Okay,
didn't work out well for Howard Dean.
Point taken. Wall Street, though, does not openly care for Elizabeth Warren. About a year and change from now, I want to get your opinion here. In about a year and a quarter, what's scarier to you, a President Trump or a President Warren?
A President Trump is scarier to me than a President Warren. But President Warren's not going to happen, so I don't like answering the hypotheticals. But if you see what I have seen, and you talk to the people on the inside, and you talk to former administration officials, and you talk to the people on the Hill, and you're a very good journalist, so go talk to those people. They're a little bit on the fraidy cat side right now where they won't admit it in front of a camera like this, but they eventually will. Okay, it is a full-blown crazy situation where the President of the United States is taking no one's counsel, and he's trying to run the executive branch of the United States by himself. He's an angry, petulant guy. And he's causing full-blown pandemonium around the world, and he's going to touch off a national and international crisis. And so I'm ringing the warning bell lights to let people know that that's happening. And now the good news is he's such a lawless, lawless felon-like of a person that he's self-immolating in front of us right now. So there won't be a President Trump, there won't be a President Warren, and I think the market will like who the next president is.
Who do you want to see on the Republican ticket then?
Give me some names. It just has to be a normal Republican. You know, who would run in 2024? There's a whole slate of them. I don't want to mention any of them because I'm talking to a lot of them right now. I don't want them to get mad at me that I'm up on television talking about it.
Come on, you won't get mad.
I want you to be the president. Okay, I think you could do a way better job than Donald Trump.
Let's just let's skip over that idea and maybe talk about the Fed here. He's been calling
first woman president from CNN.
Yeah, can you imagine? No. So President Trump has called the Fed boneheads, no vision.
It's ridiculous.
You know, his tweets are found to be threatening to the Fed's independence. Will future administrations criticize the Fed like this? Is the president opening the door for how presidents treat the Fed?
I don't think so. I think that this is an anomaly. This is a full-blown crazy person. Let's just go over a few of these things. He said that President Xi and Jerome Powell, the Federal Reserve Chairman, were both enemies of the people. Who's a bigger enemy of the people? He then went on to make a lie up about a phone call that came in related to the trade situation when the futures down here were cratering. And then he started lying about the weather. I actually think ultimately when presidential historians look back at this thing, it was the lying about the weather that killed him. Because the intelligence agencies and the military look at that and say, okay, that's full-blown crazy. You can't have somebody like that at the top of the food chain.
Okay, for our viewers who've got $1,000, let's completely switch gears here. If you've got $1,000, where would you invest it now? Where do you put your money?
So, you know, what I tell people is that you want to be defensive. I'm a turtle. I like getting a 6-7% return in a low interest rate environment. So you want to put it in a collection of stocks and bonds that are stable. So things like the S&P 500, long-term government bonds and corporate bonds, and be patient. Okay, the key to staying wealthy or to growing your wealth is being patient. Don't chase unicorns, and don't believe things that are too good to be true.
Okay, if you could be in front of President Trump right now with everything going on, what would you say to him exactly?
I would say that this is the last episode of The Apprentice where the contestants fire you. And I would say, dude, you're fired. You got to go. That's what I would say. Because he's got to go. Okay, and that's ultimately what's going to happen. The American people are exhausted. They're fed up. They recognize that he's no longer helping the situation. And as I pointed out, he's destabilizing the alliance. He's crushing the international trade situation. And he's lawless. So the combination of those things, say, dude, what are you doing? Okay, I don't know why you got this crazy, but you got to go. And you're basically, you know, he would be very smart of him to resign or to declare himself tonight or tomorrow that he's not running for re-election. And I think if he says he's not running for re-election, they'll probably let him finish out his term. But if he doesn't say he's not running for re-election, I think we're going to have a fight over the next 3 to 6 months, and then he'll be forced out.
Okay, Anthony Scaramucci with Skybridge Capital. Thanks so much for being on the show today. Great talking with you.
Nice to be here. When you run, let me know. I'm good at raising money. Ask President Trump.
Yeah.
I know how to raise money. So when you're running, I'll try to help you out.
I'll remember that.
Okay.
All right, thanks for joining us here on Markets Now. Join us every week at 12:45 right here on CNN Business. See you next time.